Welcome everyone along to the Really LinkedIn, What is Social Selling and the 7 Social Selling Spectrum Elements. My name's Mike Clark. I am the co-founder of Really LinkedIn. Our organization is the world's first certified LinkedIn training company. The book you're seeing on the front or the front cover of the book you're seeing is actually given to every single LinkedIn employee throughout EMEA HQ, LinkedIn EMEA HQ that is, and we were certified as the world's first LinkedIn certified trainers back in 2010. And long story short, we are very passionate, and I'm very passionate about helping businesses understand what exactly social selling is and how they can use it to empower themselves and their businesses. And I just want to say big thank you for joining. We've had over 150 registrations. We've got over 60 people joining us now. I'm sure there's going to be more registering and joining as we come through. Please know that this is going to be my typical style of presenting. For those of you that haven't seen me present, is that I am typically like to get very interactive. I like to ask lots of questions, and I'll just let you know that there's going to be time for questions, but I'll say that towards the end of the presentation. We're going to try and keep this to inside half an hour, as close to that as possible. And what will happen is we'll have a time for a few questions towards the end of the half hour, but then what I'll do is I'll sort of wrap things up, and then I'm happy to stick around for another 10-15 minutes to answer more questions. By the volume of the people joining us on the call, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions that'll come out of this, as social selling is a very topical topic right now, because it's very influential in how businesses are needing to adapt and mold themselves to sell in this new era of business. So without any further ado, I'm going to get cracking on with it, and I'll be asking a couple of questions throughout, and if you just feel free to chat amongst yourselves in the chat box and reply to some of the questions I ask you, then feel free to do so. And as I said, we'll have question and answer time towards the end, so just keep a list of those questions, submit them in there, and I'll make sure that I can answer them towards the end. Excellent. So moving right along, to give you an idea of what we're going to cover during this next 30 to 45 minutes, we're going to look at what social selling actually is, because we do a lot of training with, our company's trained over 450 of Europe's top corporate organizations, and from everything from IBM to Randstad to Adecco to Oracle to Siemens to ING, and right through to a lot of small businesses as well. And when I talk about the topic of social selling, and I ask companies about what their impression is of that, often it's what I'd say it's a misconception, or they misunderstand what it is. And so I'm very passionate, because of my background in small businesses, to help people understand that so they can use it more effectively. We're going to quickly look at as well what the difference is between social selling and normal selling. And then we'll be looking at the 7 social selling spectrum elements. I'm doing quite a bit of consulting with small business owners and almost assessing them in a criteria of what are the components that make up social selling, and that's what I call the social selling spectrum. And you'll be able to weigh your business up in terms of what it looks like in relation to those elements. Then we'll have some time for Q&A, and then I've got a special gift for you as well, which I'd like to be able to help you to empower yourself, particularly on the LinkedIn profile. So stay tuned for that. It's a very special gift we've got. So let's get straight into it, folks. First question I have for you is, and feel free to chat in the type of responses in the chat box. My question for you is, what is social selling? If I was to ask you right now and you were having a conversation, what would you interpret by social selling? All right, as you're replying, I'll give you my understanding of what it is. And for me, social selling is that it's about identifying and leveraging the trust that is already in your network, with a view to expand and enhance your business through relationships. So I'll repeat that again. It's about identifying and leveraging the trust. Trust is such a powerful word when it comes to social selling. And it's a trust that's already in your networks, with a view to expand and enhance your business through relationships. Relationships is a key word. It's because social, think about the word social, it's all about relationships. So often people understand, I like what you're saying there, Fiona. It's relationship with people, building trust before selling. Great example of that. Making friends, building trust, helping each other for money. Yeah, I think that's a good understanding too there, Sally. So what I'll do is I'll help you to break it down into a couple different levels here. Now, when I typically ask this question in a training environment, people will often reply on the first level, which I'd say is the lower level, which is social selling is about using the right platforms to communicate, connect, and engage with your prospects and leveraging content effectively. So I like what you've said there, Elaine. I would have said to extend and leveraging. Yes, absolutely. And so really that's about making sure you're on the right platforms. And every business is different. Some it's relevant for Facebook and Twitter, whereas other companies it's less relevant. And LinkedIn, for example, if you're selling B2B, is more relevant. So it's knowing where you need to be. But for me, the most important thing, which I think is often over-missed, is what I would call the higher level conversation. And if you take away one thing from this session today, I'd really like it to be this, is that for me, social selling is about embracing the behavioral shift that has taken place that has fundamentally shifted the way people make a decision and buy products and services. So it's about the behavioral shift, and that fundamentally, when you really understand the core of it, when you have a behavioral shift, it means there's been habitual change to the way people make a decision. So pre-internet era, what happened is you had people who needed to go out to the actually, what I'll do is I'll move on to the next slide, because what we talk about here is the difference between social selling versus traditional selling. And in a traditional selling sense, which was pre-1990s, if you will, pre-internet, if you think about what needed to happen then, if I wanted to buy something, what would I need to do? Well, typically I'd need to go out and speak to a salesperson or read a marketing piece or something of that essence, and then I'd need to go buy something from someone. So a lot of the power of the sale remained in the salesperson's hands. Then all of a sudden the internet came about. And how did that shift the buying behavior? Feel free to type some responses in. But fundamentally what happened is that we now are able to Google and to be able to research and do more online development and research and analysis before we make a purchase. Then what happened is we had social selling. Okay, yeah, exactly what you're saying there, Fiona. You know, we're able to make our own decisions without speaking to the salesperson or company. And then all of a sudden, social media came into the forefront. And now people don't want to just be able to do their own research. They want to know recommendations. You know, they want to be able to make an assessment about the company and find out what other people think before they make that purchase. So the thing is that now the power is switched from being in the seller's hands to being in the buyer's hands. And the question is that if this is why I love helping businesses assess their ability to understand where they need to be and how effectively they are social selling, because the reality of it is, whether you're on the right platforms or not, your prospects are looking for you. And if they're looking for you and they're not finding you, what are they finding? Well, it's a pretty obvious answer, isn't it? They're going to be finding someone else. So anyways, so here's some of the elements that we can look at, okay, in terms of the difference between social selling and traditional selling. And social selling is about being timely. With systems this day and age, we can access and present information at the right time when the prospect's ready. Traditional selling is about intrusive, saying, I'm ready to call now, I'm calling through a list of people right now, I want to speak to you. So it's intrusive. Social selling era is the more researched you are, the more targeted you can get. Whereas in a traditional selling sense, yeah, absolutely, Norman. The buyer has much more power now. I completely agree. But in a traditional selling sense, that we lack that information, we lack that knowledge and information. So it was a high volume game. And social selling allows us, because of the targeted information, we can have high conversion rates, high quality conversion rates. And then, as a result of, I mean, when you don't have social selling in a traditional sense, you need to do high quantity. Quality, and so as a result of that, your conversion rates were low. In a social selling sense, you can have quality prepared questions, and because we didn't know that information in a traditional selling era, we had to ask those low-level discovery questions, such as tell me a bit about your business. Whereas now you can jump online, read their LinkedIn profile, do some research online for their websites, etc. In a social selling sense, we want to make it easy to take that first yes. And when you're doing traditional selling, often you want to be able to get asked for someone's time, an hour of their time, which is difficult for them to take that first yes, particularly if they're a busy person. And again, as we've discussed, that the buyer controls the sale in a social selling sense and the seller controls it in a traditional sense. And automated version manual, I'll talk in just a moment about systems of what comprises social selling business. And this is a very big opportunity I find for a lot of companies. A lot of companies, even very successful companies, do this very poorly. They have poor systems to back up their business, but systems can empower a small business to compete with the big companies. Okay, so hopefully there's no, I'm seeing echo. Hopefully that's not an echo from me, but I'll keep moving on anyway. So here's what I'd like you to do now, folks, is to look at these are the 7 elements of the social spectrum. Okay, and there's going to be a series of questions that I'll ask you, and what I'd like you to do is to almost weigh up your business in relationship to these 7 elements or these 7 questions. And the first component that I talk about, and the way that I've got 2 companies, and the way that I view them is that they are content creation stations. And that it's not about just creating any piece of content. It's about creating the right type of content. So the question you want to be asking yourself is, what is the type of content you're creating? Okay, most people create a report or something, but it's irrelevant. It's not as highly sought after by prospects. So as a result, it's not that engaging. And then you have to ask yourself the question, how relevant is the content in relation to the prime prospect or marketplace you're going after? So the question we ask ourselves here at Really LinkedIn, and a question I'd encourage you to ask yourself is, what is the number one piece of content that if you created and you asked your prospect if they'd want it, they would rip your hand off to grab it? So what is that information? Is it some tips? Is it information? Is it a report? Is it white paper? Is it a video? What sort of content is it, that type of information? And then look to develop that and give it to your prospects for free. That's the first way to make it very easy to engage with them. So that's how you can turn your business into a content creation station. You want to constantly be producing relevant information. Some of the top sellers of LinkedIn, I ask them how they perceive themselves, and they tell me that they perceive themselves as being an information concierge. And I love that, because we're used to researching our own information this day and age before we make a purchase. So you've got to make sure your business has that information available. Okay. So that's in terms of turning your business into a content creation station. Ask yourself, where is your business on that level? Is it you low, medium, or high? And what's the quality of that information? All right. One of the companies that I'm a shareholder of is called Rockstar Mentoring Live. We have over 60 mentors who've all started, built, and sold companies. Each week we've got an online platform, and one of the things we do is every week we produce at least 7 blogs, at least 2 videos, and at least a webinar. And we make our mentors accessible online. So there's a lot of content that we're producing on a regular basis, and we can produce and publish that content online to attract more business and more leads. And as a result of that, not in this business, but in another business, we're attracting 1,000 leads a week, a month, I should say, as a result of just having the right information that's out there in the marketplace. So what sort of information are you producing on a constant level? Next thing you want to be able to assess yourself on is understanding where you need to be. And you don't need to be everywhere. This is a classic mistake I see a lot of small businesses make. They often go to a social media event or talk to a guru, and a guru says, wow, look at this, you should be on Facebook, have a fan page, you should be doing Facebook ads, you should be on Twitter, you should be on Pinterest, you should be on LinkedIn, start a group and everything. So people stress themselves out and think, wow, I need to be everywhere. I just did some consulting with the company and on these different elements. There's a lot of consulting businesses on these different elements of social selling. And this one company came to me, and they're approaching the CIOs of the Fortune 100 companies. And he was saying, should we be on Facebook? Because he was told he should be. And I said, absolutely not. It's not relevant for you whatsoever. And so you really want to understand where you need to be. And if you think you need to be everywhere, think again. Ask yourself, where are my prospects hanging out? And that's where you need to be. All right. And then when you're there, you want to be saying, where are you publishing the content to get the most attraction? Okay. And which platforms are most relevant for your prospects? And when you're on those platforms, how well do you demonstrate you understand what the prospect when you're there? Do you talk in terms of their language? Here at Really LinkedIn, we have different markets that we go after. We have, we've exclusively promoted this content just to people who are interested in sales and business owners, so sales professionals and business owners. We go after the HR human resource market, but we didn't market that event to these guys, to those guys, because it's not relevant, And with our systems, we can segment and say just these people get it, but not those people. And you should be able to communicate in that way. Otherwise, we'd spam people with a bunch of information that's not really relevant to them. So, so these are just some questions which I hope are sparking up some interest. And please, if you have some questions, Naomi will be capturing them as we go through. But please store them on. Just hold on to them for now. We'll come to questions at the end. All right. But hopefully, it provides you good stimulation. I'm about to ask you a couple of questions, so get ready to reply. And the question I have is, which platform is right for you? If you're selling B2B, then I would absolutely encourage you, whether it's through us, and yes, you could say I'm biased, yes, we are LinkedIn trainers, that's correct. However, whether you decide to take up training with us or not, if you're selling B2B, then LinkedIn is a platform that you must be mastering. Because if you think about it, there's over 225 million professional users. Facebook has over a billion users, but a lot of those people aren't relevant for the aren't professionals. They, senior people. There's junior people in there. There's pets. There's dogs. People can have multiple accounts. There's 225 professional users, and LinkedIn will give you. It will show you exactly how you're connected to them. LinkedIn has gone from literally 110 million users to over 225 million in the last 2 years. So basically, they've doubled their size of what took them 8 years growth. They've doubled that in just 2 years. Phenomenal. It's gaining more and more traction here in the UK. Actually, one of the questions I've got for you, let's see who knows their numbers on LinkedIn. How many people do you think are on LinkedIn in the UK? Just type some responses in there. How many people do you think are on? Oh, we've got 180 million. Okay, or in the UK, wow, there's only 60 million in here, Nadia, but I think you may have been thinking globally. Okay, 7 million, 10 million, 30 million, 18 million. Yeah, there we go. I see that, Nadia. The zero slipped in there. Excellent. So it's 2 million, 7 million. Okay. So let's think about this. So there's 60 million, give or take, 60 million people in the UK. Of those who are professional, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's probably around 20 to 25 million, right? Well, at the moment, LinkedIn has 12 million. So those of you who picked 12 million, well done. But the phenomenal thing is that it's gone from 11 million users at the beginning of the year to over 12 million. So it's over a 10% growth in 4 months. It's phenomenal growth, and the conversation people are having around LinkedIn is massively shifted. And that's why there's an interesting stat I've got at the bottom here, which is the top sellers. There's a lot of research that we're digging up at the moment, and this is some research by a lady by the name of Jill Konrath, Jillkonrath. She's a fantastic researcher of social selling. She's done a lot of research which I follow, and she's saying that top sellers in corporate companies use LinkedIn to generate prospect lists, and over 80% of the top sellers do that. And LinkedIn is such a powerful way to develop lists of prospects because it's such targeted information. You can research and develop, lists of leads. So if you're selling B2B, then it's definitely the platform you need to be. If you are, B2C, then probably, business to consumer, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube are probably more relevant. But the more senior in the corporate, you would definitely want to be moving towards LinkedIn. If you're B2C and consumers, then you definitely want to be looking at places like Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and things like that. All right, they're more the B2C element, not exclusively, but as a general rule of thumb. Okay. And here's a real example of some other stats from Jill, is that there's this gentleman that she's been following who literally in 6 months from using LinkedIn on about an average of an hour a day, he was able to net $350,000 worth of new opportunities. So that's cash in the bank. So over the period of time, it's the breakdown here is that spent 24 weeks, 6 hours a day, it was about 144 hours. That put in his pipeline 34 opportunities. And that netted him of those opportunities. It worked out to be of the 144 hours he put in there, worked out to be $2,341 an hour. And this is the ability. Like, we do training all day long with different companies, and they're blown away by the results that you can get when you use LinkedIn, and not just LinkedIn. I mean, I talk about LinkedIn because that's our background. That's where we do training with. But there's other companies and other people I talk to who use Facebook and different platforms, and the ability to target and get such specific results is phenomenal. And that's why what Jamie says is that his personal development return on investment is unmatched by other sales mediums. So excellent. So I hope you're finding this interesting, folks. Please do gather those questions. We'll be covering them very soon. Some other ways to assess your team's one of the main criteria that we talk about when I assess a company on its social selling capability is that you want to look at the team resources you have available to you, and you want to look at where you're allocating the time of them. And are you making best use of the resources available to you and leveraging them most effectively? The other question you want to be asking is, are you allocating your time and or your teams, if you have one, to use LinkedIn and other platforms to enhance your relationships? The top sellers, there's no dispute in the statement I'm about to say, which is the top sellers use social media consistently to produce results, but they don't waste their time with it. You have to quantify how you actually use your time. That's what we teach people how to do, how to quantify, to say, listen, I've put in an hour of results, and as a result of an hour of time, and as a result of that, it's produced a list of a client that I sat down with yesterday, said that he put in the equivalent of 2 hours of research. As a result, produced a list of about 60 different prospects, and there was 12 people who could introduce him to those prospects, and 7 of those 12 people, he's now got a meeting in the diary to catch up with them to discuss how they can get introductions to his prime prospects. He was absolutely blown away by the results that we were able to show him how to get. And this is the thing that you want to be looking at is, are you using your resources effectively? And if you're very busy, like our friend Lee Ashton, Lee's one of the UK's leading sales trainers, particularly NLP sales techniques. And she came along to one of our training courses, and she was saying that for over 29 years she's been using sales techniques such as, she used to be a big proponent of cold calling, is now doing a lot of talks about how cold calling is dead. It's just ineffective. There's actually a study by IBM saying that cold calling is ineffective 97% of the time. Pretty demoralizing way. We show strategies which show you how to get results into the 30 to 60% mark, which is conversion rates. It's fantastic. But she was saying that using these techniques that we taught her, that's the best prospecting she's ever done. Most importantly, though, if you're a busy individual and if you're sitting going like, oh, I don't have time to be able to, let's say, to do the research online, okay, and to do the lead generation through LinkedIn or other platforms, then what we did in Lee's case is we taught her to outsource it. And there's ways that you can teach others to do that, and we can show you how to do that as well. But if you are a busy individual, don't think you have to do this all yourself. There are ways to be able to outsource this sort of stuff. And the only thing I'd highlight here is that as a result of getting one of her team to perform this exercise, she was actually able to get within the first. She taught a person how to do it. They generated a list of leads, and even sent these people some emails. And as a result, she got an introduction to the sales director of one of social media's largest platforms. I can't actually share who it was, but she had phenomenal results within literally a matter of hours. And this is one of the last criteria that I will share with you for today before I hand it over to a couple of questions and wrap things up, is that you want to be able to assess your systems and ask yourself, do they speed you up or slow you down? I'm blown away by the number of companies that have even grown to a decent size, and as a result of that, they've got systems which really are debilitating in their business instead of enhancing them. And if you're a small business owner, then using systems, yes, they take a while to set up. Systems like Infusionsoft take a while to set up, and yes, you do need to invest into it. However, it gives you a competitive advantage. You can segment and target prospects like never before, and they're phenomenal to give your business growth. So key question you want to ask yourself is, what internal client management systems are you using to track the progress of your prospects through the flow of your information? And I love that, the flow of your information, because remember we said before, it's about creating relevant information, but you want to make that information available when your prospects are ready. That's why I've got a key question you want to ask yourself here, which is, are you ready for business when your prospect is ready to purchase? Because if you're not, right, if your prospect for all of a sudden wants to buy something at 2 a.m. in the morning, are you ready to buy? Can they engage with you? Can they find you? Can they interact with you? And can you lead them through an automated process so that at the end of it, or when they're ready, they want to buy? Can you do that? That's a question you've got to ask yourself. Because if you're not able to do that, then they'll be going to your competitor. And this is when we do a lot of one-to-one consulting and or with the training that we do, we often get companies to think about how they can, tidy up their systems. So, so Nick, 2 a.m. Unless they have a 24-hour dial there, Nick, hey? And even then you probably wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't want to answer it. So anyway, so I really hope you're finding this useful, folks. And what I'll do is, because I'm trying to stick into the half-hour mark as much as possible, if you joined later, then what I'll be doing is answering just a couple questions now. Then what I'll do is I'll wrap up and give you your special gift for joining with us. And then I'm happy to stick around for another 10, 15 minutes to answer more specific questions. But is there a question or two that's come to my mind right now that that you're able to put forward? So I've got a question here that's come from, while someone's typing that in, I've got a question here from Nick, which is Nick Hayward, says his biggest problem is getting past the gatekeeper. Can LinkedIn help? The answer is absolutely. I mean, I just dealt with a client yesterday as well, like I mentioned him before, who was dealing with CIOs of Fortune 100 companies essentially, and he was doing a lot of methods where they are using telemarketing, and and they have 3 telemarketers, and when I sat down and assessed with him, I said, listen, is it best use for you guys to be just cold calling, or are you open to us using and delegating their time differently? That's why I talk about look at how you're using the resources available to you. And he said he's open to finding more effective ways, but he said, prove it to me that it is a better route to market. So I said, okay. So I showed him some advanced search techniques. Now, some of the advanced search techniques we teach people probably use, if advanced search, if you're not aware of that, then it's one of the most powerful components of LinkedIn. And when you use it, what happens is that most people's competency of using advanced search is probably about 10% at best. I saw Rich Baker, who was on here before. If you're here, Rich, great to see you. And Rich, I think, could attest that when he came to our training, that he may have used the advanced search, but we blew him out of the water with showing him how specific and targeted you can get with using advanced search. And anyways, cut a long story short, this particular content that I was referring to, Nick, he was using cold calling, but after the techniques that we've shown him to be able to target him to his key prospects, what we taught him to do is to actually look to nurture the people he has the best relationship with in his network, and then look to be able to understand who of his prime prospects that his good contacts can introduce him to. Or just put that in to say that in another way, who of the people in your first degree network can introduce you to the people in your second degree? And that's the power of LinkedIn, is it's a second degree network, even third degree network. But what happens is that you need to really build your first degree network. And when you build that up, and we cover during our training, how do you identify and tag people on LinkedIn who are in your, what we would call your A category, like your top list? And then how do you enhance the relationship with those people? And then how do you look to facilitate introductions? And so that's a very effective way to get around cold calling and getting past the gatekeeper too, Nick. So hopefully that answers your question. But one of the things that we run, folks, is we run a LinkedIn social selling training day. And I'm not here to give you a long sales-winded pitch. It's literally just to let you know, if you are interested in some of these topics, and also how you can use LinkedIn more effectively to generate list of leads. Like, all our training is about a return on investment, and we will show you how to use LinkedIn. We've got over 10, it's more like a dozen lead generation strategies which we can teach you to be able to use LinkedIn. And as you see in the notes here, it's about passive, active, and proactive strategies that we can teach you on LinkedIn. And we'll be happy. I'd love to share that with you. The workshops, it's two half-day training workshops. They're separated by a month apart, so that you don't get overwhelmed. And what happens is that by separating by a month, you come to the first one, which is on the 27th of September. And then as a result of that, you can then come to one. We're looking around the 18th of October for the next one. So it's about a month apart, and in between you get to practice and apply what you're implementing. And then as a result of that, you can then ask us questions and you get insights, but most importantly, you see results as you go through it. And then we've actually got a whole bunch of bonuses in there as well. There's another great event that we're involved in. We'd love to give you a ticket to that. So it's normally £400. We're doing an early bird rate for it's £297 plus VAT. We're going to cap it to small rooms of, it'll be no more than 8 people per trainer. So we'll have no more than probably 3 groups of 8 in one session. So we'll make sure that they're nice and interactive, and you'll build a really good relationship with people. We just finished with a 6-month program with some clients, Rich Baker, who is on there, and people are absolutely loving it. And there's a page I can point you to in just a moment. You can listen to some videos of some of what some of our clients have said about it. But if you're interested in that, just wanted to let you know about it. Kicks off on the 27th of September. And the main gifts that we have for you for joining us today is that I would love to offer you what we call profile self-assessment. This is valued at £47. It's completely free of charge for you to be able to take. And if you would like to do that, all you have to do is follow the link www.reallylinkedin.co.uk /PSA, short for profile self-assessment. And what that will allow you to do is to download a document, which will literally, it's a spreadsheet which will give you a score out of from 0 to 100, and it'll identify where you're currently at with your profile and your awareness of all the elements that you can do to turn your profile into a lead generating tool. We're talking in talks with LinkedIn at the moment, and where they're going with their profile is amazing. And more and more, because of the Google rankings are so high with LinkedIn, people now and small businesses are actually turning their personal profile pages and their company profile pages into lead generating tools. And it's really phenomenal what you can do with rich media content. You can have lead generating documents and SlideShare and YouTube presentations and things like that. You can have them on your profile, and your leads can, or when people direct, or when you direct people to your profile, it can then act as turning that person who's on your profile into a lead into your business. And there's certain ways you can do that. We show people how to do that. For us, that's a passive strategy. Okay, that's once you set your profile up, it's passive. So it's not even getting into the active or proactive strategies, but it's having the right profile is so important, because that's often people's first impression of you. So this profile self-assessment will help you to understand the strengths and the weaknesses. Then I'll give you a report at the end of it as well, identifying the best practices of what you need to do to tidy that up. So just go to the link www.reallylinkedin.co.uk/PSA. And then the other thing is, on that page, you'll see that there is a LinkedIn accelerator session. Essentially, if you really see value in wanting to better understand how to apply your profile and use it to really turn it into a lead generator, and you're committed to taking action, that's the main thing. We're happy to give you some feedback, happy to give you some recommendations about that. We'll get one of our consultants to give you some honest feedback about that. So please just know that the feedback, take it to heart, not take it lightly, but also, there's no point doing that assessment if you're not going to put into practice some of the recommendations. But we're happy to put aside half an hour of our time with one of our consultants to make sure that we can give you some really, really good insight to develop your profile. So that's you can fill out the web form that's on that page, which again is reallylinkedin.co.uk/PSA. And also there's some videos on there about what people think of the training session, if that's of interest for you as well. So let me see. So guys, I really thank you so much for your time.